Welcome back to the Agentic Insider. I'm your host, Philip Swan. In this show, we explore cutting-edge ideas and trends in AI and data, as well as hear from other industry thought leaders in the AI space. This podcast is brought to you by Iridius AI, committed to safe and responsible AI innovation. Let's dig in. And welcome to this week's edition of the Agentic Insider. With me and Alistair today is a tech evangelist. He's a futurist, one of Silicon Valley's most recognized voices. He was an author of a successful blog called Scoble and previously ran a YouTube channel with over 22,000 subscribers. He is the founder and CEO of Unaligned. Robert, the Scobleizer Scoble, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I've had quite a career since being Apple's first child laborer back in 1978, building Apple II motherboards in my mom's kitchen. But
oh, wow. Wow.
And I sort of launched AI into the consumer world. Siri was launched in my house, and that was the first consumer app to use AI. So yeah, I've been watching AI for a while.
Oh, God, we're going to have so much fun in this call. So I can't get away from asking the question we ask everybody, Robert, is what future are you solving for? What are you working on?
A very weird future. We're headed toward the singularity. I'm trying to make it happen faster, and that's brain-computer interfaces, robotics, and holodecks, 3D environments that are all around you or on things that we soon will experience in a pair of glasses that's coming.
That's great. So what are you seeing, in the consumer space, in terms of adoption of AI and how people are thinking about it?
We have ourselves a browser war, people. There's like 5 new browsers that just shipped in the last 3 weeks. Perplexity's Comet is the one that seems to be gathering the most attention, although Dia is doing real well and GenSpark isn't giving up. So well, and in an hour or 2 hours, OpenAI is announcing something new, so we're going to probably have to change. We should have this conversation again in 3 hours.
That's right. Actually, it's actually in 1 hour, so it's at 10 a.m. Pacific. So we're just giving you some advance notice. We actually know that OpenAI is going to be releasing something pretty major. So watch this space.
Particularly for agentic thinkers. And I think
absolutely
we're seeing a new bifurcation in the world. Most people, if you ask them on the street, have no idea what an AI agent is. Yet if you come to San Francisco, there's whole industry building for this agentic future. So
how do you think about it? So give us your perspective. So how does Robert think about agents and how they're going to shape Robert's future?
I think we're switching from a kind of computing where you have to do everything yourself to a world where you build agents that answer your email or answer your phones or do your research for you or put things on your calendar, right? All of a sudden we're starting to automate our businesses and our lives. And that side of the industry is very exciting. It's, I have lists of all the companies in the AI space. There's 6,600 already on my list. And that tells you something's happening for that world. But most of people in the world haven't even started thinking about it. And even if they did hear about a new agentic browser like Comet or something like that, they don't know what to do with it because they haven't been on X and talking to people. It takes some mental effort to switch from thinking in an old way to this new agentic way. And it'll grow, but it's a new way of working. It's a new way of living. And that'll be real apparent to people who get glasses in 3, 4, 5 years. And it'll be very apparent when a robot shows up at your front door. Right?
That's right. That's right. And that robot will probably turn up starting next year. So I think next year we're going to start seeing
even the Chinese who are building the robots telling me it's about 7 years for a truly generalized humanoid robot that can do everything you expect, right? And not just specific tasks, right?
Exactly, but it's tangible and it's there. I mean, we're talking about something that's within our grasp to be able to do that.
even if it's 7 years away, that's not a long time in human history.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And we had this conversation with Uli Homan from Microsoft, and yesterday, and so when we were recording a podcast, and really, people are using, agents at the moment, or talking about agents in the same way they talk about co-pilots. It feels to us where it's like, I want an assistant who can book all of my meetings for me, who can do all of these things. But I think that you and Philip and I know that really the future is going to be agents talking to agents. Okay, so that basically each agent spins up a swarm of other agents to go and complete a more complex task under that coordinated approach. So, what are some of the sort of opportunities that you see as agents become more pervasive to be able to take on these sorts of things from a consumer perspective?
Yeah. From a consumer perspective, it's a interesting one. I mean, uh, people with an Apple Vision Pro just got an update that lets them put user interfaces on every surface in their home, right? So
Oh, wow.
you can put a window right next to your Nest thermostat. I have these nano leaf lights behind me that have a computer in them. I can put a user interface right next to the light, so I can walk up to the light and change the color. If you start, and that I have a June oven that has a computer vision in it, right? So it automatically
Mm.
cooks my toast. I'm already starting this, trying to make my entire life automatic, right? My car self drives. That's sort of an AI. That's an AI, but it's not all stitched together in a really nice way. That's coming with the glasses, right? So when people get the glasses, they're going to be able to put user interfaces on everything and control everything and have everything work together so that if you have an intention change, your whole house can change, your whole life can change, right? and, and it's hard to explain all that because it's still a little bit early days in this agentic move. Because, like I said, if I when I do consumer research with normal everyday people, they haven't even started thinking about AI agents. They don't even know why you want one or how to use one. They don't even know about the new browsers that just came out, right? That that's for a future world. For me, for the consumer, consumers only figure things out after there's a true paradigm shift, right? When we went from character mode computing to GUI mode to graphical user interfaces, the brands changed and big companies went away and new ones appeared, right? Borland and WordPerfect used to be big dramatic companies in the character mode world, but they didn't make the switch into the Windows 95 world, right? And the Macintosh world. And same thing is going to happen here when consumers do finally get glasses, and that's probably 5 years away, right? For everybody, maybe four, right? Um, for everybody, for all of us, next year, right? But when those glasses come, that's going to bring the virtual beings to front. That's a new user interface, really. It's going to bring a new way of running your life. Like I said, you can put interfaces on the wall, right? That's a new way of doing computing. When you get all of that, that's when you're going to see the power of the agents, and by then the agents are going to be much more robust and much more templatized. So you can go to a store and find a bunch of them and stitch them together easily, which the consumer doesn't like to do a lot of work. In fact, it needs to be just I need to talk to an AI, and an AI has to set up all my agents for me and automate my life, right?
So when we started the Iridius, I mean, this is literally exactly a year ago when we started Iridius. We're just celebrating our first year anniversary. And one of the things we said around the table when we're setting it up was we have the opportunity to fundamentally change how humans interact with technology, with what we're building.
It's going to very deeply change over the next decade for everybody, right? Having a robot in your house, a decade from now, most of us are probably going to have a robot at least to the front door, you
And I
know?
mean, everybody. I mean, people who are listening and thinking, "Well, hang on a minute, that seems a little far fetched. Maybe it's the Jetsons." But I mean, most people already have a Roomba. Okay.
Yes.
Well, Anita, we already have a Roomba. We have an electronic device that goes around and cleans the floors and follows things around, and people can get that. Well, okay, this is a taller version of a Roomba that can do more with arms. It's that point. Okay, now it can go up and down stairs. So
At CES, there was a Roomba that had an arm.
exactly, that's it. Because what you really need is a killer lot, this sort of thing for robot wars in your house. That's the trick in all of this.
So one thing that I've noticed, right, especially when forget all the political crap that's going on right now. In mainland China, I mean, society has adopted AI radically into society already in mainland China, right? And we don't recognize that
Well,
here.
keep in mind, I've been to China quite a few times. We're only seeing the rich part of China, which is a big number of people, right? Because they have 1.3 billion people, 1 point something billion people, right? They have a huge amount of people. We're not seeing the poorest of that. There's about 300 million people there that are living in poverty. We're seeing the people in Shanghai and Beijing and their
Correct.
top 40 cities, which they're ahead. They're ahead in spatial computing. They take it up more quickly. They're ahead in robotics and
Yep.
manufacturing. They're a little bit, they say they're a little bit behind in AI, but they're catching up real quick. I'm seeing, right now, the top of the leaderboard is the Chinese model, right?
And I think one of the things that we've got there is they're very tech forward. So the entire sort of society runs on Weixin or WeChat, as we would call it. So, it's a one app that does everything, from so you go along and want to buy something from a street vendor that only costs, 20 cents, tap and pay. And we over here go, oh, yeah, well, that's Apple Pay. Everybody does that or whatever, or Android Pay. But it's not. It's so pervasive to every other part of their life and the way that they work. And so I think Weixin, being heavily adopted across the country is a huge thing towards encouraging people to adopt technology. And as you start adding more and more AI to the app that everyone uses, it's then just an extension of what they're already doing. So I think, agentifying or AIifying their particular sort of technology choices is so much of a way of driving a cultural change.
In Shanghai, they already have drone deliveries, right? Drone hasn't shown up in my neighborhood, and I live in Silicon Valley, which has a company here called Zipline over in Half Moon Bay that's trying to do that, but we haven't seen it spread everywhere. Spreading everywhere is a hard thing for America, getting these technologies out to people and getting them to be happy with them is a much harder thing than in China. Partly because in China, everybody's stacked up on top of each other. So ideas pass very quickly, right? If you see a drone in the sky, you start figuring out what that thing is, right? They also have huge markets. They have 10 cities bigger than New York.
Yep.
And that's a huge amount of data that they can have, which makes it possible to do new kinds of robots and AI. We're struggling to collect that kind of data to get to the place where we can finish off a humanoid robot.
I agree, and also from a responsible AI perspective, there are rules and approaches. So I'll be cautious how I talk about this, but rules and approaches. The EU AI Act that particularly limits things that you can do. You can't screen scrape faces. You can't use public CCTV and cameras to be able to gather information. Where the rules are different inside China, so therefore you are able to gather data and train following the rules inside the country, to be able to build models that are much harder to build in the Western world in that respect.
Yeah, they have unfair advantages,
Mm-hmm.
and so if we're going to compete and remain relevant on the world stage, we're going to have to do it American way. Yeah, innovate and think different, right?
Take this to enterprises. So one of the things that we talk about a lot with enterprises is there's obviously a fear of AI is going to steal my job. Okay, which is an understandable thing. If you're not able to use the new tools, then you're going to be left behind by people who can use the tools.
Yeah.
And I think that there seems to be, when people are at home, they have a phone with an app that updates, every day, and they're constant new apps and new changes, and people seem to be perfectly okay with using the technology there. But when they get into an enterprise, the resistance to change becomes much more significant. And this is always the way I've done my job. I don't want to have have to do very much with that. Even on a younger generation, there's still a level of that resistance because there's too much change going on. So how do you think, so how do you see the adoption of the sort of AI happening across the companies that you're talking to?
Well, let's take two. One, I've seen a 20-year-old's kid's new AI that he built. It's real remarkable. He is working for an architectural firm. So he stuck in an RFQ from an architectural firm to build a skyscraper. It built the skyscraper. It did the earthquake testing on it, the light analysis on the local neighborhood, and wind analysis, all in less than 20 minutes. And then it built its own 3D rendering system to show you the skyscraper.
Yep.
Right? All in 20 minutes. In other words, Autodesk is dead, and there's nothing they can do to react to that. They're just going to die over the next decade. There's nothing that Autodesk can do about that. That's coming for them. And so you're going to see some big companies fail. On the other side, Coca-Cola hasn't even really started doing AI yet, right? That's a huge enterprise company. Now they're looking at a variety of initiatives. I know the guy who runs AI over there just got hired a few months ago, right? So they're starting to see that they have to change. Now, Coca-Cola is not going anywhere. It's not like Autodesk. Autodesk is under a direct existential threat, and I don't see how they're going to innovate their way out of that problem, because this 20-year-old's thing is just going to eviscerate them, and there's nothing Autodesk can do about that. Coca-Cola, on the other hand, I have a feeling in 100 years we're still all drinking some sort of Coke product. Right?
Yep.
Well, at least the robots in our house will be drinking the Coca-Cola products.
No, they'll be bringing it to you on the couch. Hey, Optimus or whatever, or Figure, hey, get me a Coke. It'll bring you a Coke. I have a feeling Coke isn't going anywhere because it's such a iconic product, and it has distribution, it has all the advantages in life. But even them, they're going to be affected by AI. For instance, if you take an autonomous car to work, you're not going to stop at the gas station anymore. Because if you're taking a gas car right now, you have to stop at the gas station every once in a while, and you go inside the mini mart and buy a Diet Coke or whatever, and they sell a lot of product in those little mini marts. That's going to go away in the autonomous AI world. So they have to think about how do they change their business to respond to that distribution method going away, because that's going to affect their shareholders. A little piece of their distribution goes away, right?
Whole industries are going to be radicalized by this, right? Retail is a big one, right? Retail is going to be really like where Coca-Cola is going. We saw last night Coca-Cola is now going to be doing real cane sugar in their U.S. drinks versus corn syrup, right?
We'll see how fast that happens, and we'll see because Coca-Cola really doesn't put the sugar in the drink. It just makes a very specific syrup that they sell to their bottling manufacturers, and the bottling manufacturers are who puts the Coke in the bottle.
That's right.
It's not owned by Coca-Cola, the bottling plants, right? Not completely, but so it'll be interesting to see how many bottling centers around the world. And so these bottling centers, by the way, are complete companies on themselves. Some of them have 300,000 employees because they have truck drivers going around Mexico City selling Coke and putting it in machines and bringing it to the retail centers.
I used to work, when I was at Microsoft, I worked extensively with Coca-Cola Enterprises, right? So quite familiar with the whole bottle, and I actually got to meet a lot of the bottling owners as well, and during that process, which, just like you were saying,
they're evaluating Palantir right now. So they're going to see that as they bring AI technologies into the enterprise, you know how hard it is to get people to change and adopt new things. But once they do, there's going to be it's going to be a more agile business. It's going to be more profitable, right? And they're going to be able to open up new business lines and see new things and respond to market trends like this. right? The autonomous car is a market threat to them. They have to respond to that and figure out how to develop new products and new things to counteract that, right?
So you've been, I'm sure you're very aware of a lot of the work that's going on in the medical field. And I had my one of my nieces suffered a TBI. She almost died. This was like several years ago, and she's still suffering from it. One of the things that I've been personally thinking about for my own philanthropic activities is around brain-computer interfaces and human augmentation and how AI goes there. How would you evaluate the risks and opportunities for brain-computer interfaces?
That yeah, I had in my head a trip I took to Sully AI, which is building AIs for doctors and nurses and the hospital system to automate the hospital system, and they're doing a real interesting job, and that can make the hospital system more profitable, more agile, and much more customer focused even while doing all that, right? Because it answers the phones. So now a nurse doesn't have to be answering the phones. A nurse can actually be paying attention to you as a patient and providing a better level of care, right? And you're going to see that ripple through the hospital system. Then we're going to see a newer kind of medicine, a preventative medicine. We're seeing it, a taste of it. If you ask ChatGPT about, some problem with your health, it answers you pretty well. And you can even take pictures of, skin rashes or sutures, and it tells you the information just like a surgeon would. I did this with my friend. It's really remarkable. But we're soon going to be wearing devices that predict our health, cannot almost warn you that you're going to have a heart attack tomorrow, right? And that is going to also improve the level of care for the hospital, for the healthcare system. It'll make us healthier if we really pay attention to it, but it'll also give our doctors much more data about what's actually going on with us if we have a little sensor on our ring, on our wrist, or on our finger. Brain computer interface are a whole nother ball of wax. They're going to, first of all, they're going to split into a few different areas. Mark Zuckerberg in October is announcing an armband that listens to the electricity going down your hand to your fingers, right? So if you're trying to shoot a gun in a video game, electricity passed up your hand from your brain to your fingers. And so now it can intercept that and do new things with it, right? And have maybe 8 arms in a video game where you're all shooting, right? Having a much more precise control of your fingers in a 3D environment. Because right now, if I wear my Vision Pro and I'm trying to click like on things in X Pro, the camera can't see the tip of my finger very perfectly. So it's sometimes frustrating to get the right like. Well, you have a sensor here, it reduces that error rate, right? And it gets more precise. There's also devices that stick behind your ear to make you learn left and right. So little minor brain computer interfaces. And there's going to be some earphones from Apple that listens to your brain at some level to understand your intentionality a little bit better, and or understand how you're hearing the music better, right? So it can do all sorts of fun things. We're going to see little minor ones like that. And then we're also going to see a difference between the brain-computer interfaces that actually are wires on your brain, like the current Neuralink, right? Where they have thousands of wires or threads, they call them, placed onto the brain inside your skull by a robot. That's going to be a hard thing for normal, everyday people to accept, because you have to sign a waiver that it could kill you putting that in, right? There's a chance that process can go bad, and even it can go bad over time, because your brain, the neurons in your head don't like these little wires, so they start scabbing up and pulling away from them. So the efficiency of the wire talking to the brain is not quite there. The current Neuralink can only read from your brain, can't write to your brain. but we know that they're developing technologies to write to the brain as well. Neuralink calls it eyesight, to write visual information into your visual nerves, so you can make a blind person see or something like that. And so, and for a while, I think that's where the internal brain computer interfaces are going to be. They're going to be medical devices for people who don't care about dying so much. This device is going to bring them such a big improvement in life, like we're seeing with the first 7 patients who have Neuralink. It dramatically improves their life, right? All of a sudden, they can communicate with their family, they can control things, they can interact with us, right? Online. It really, really dramatically improves their life. Those people will sign up for this kind of thing. Me and you, probably not for years, right?
Right.
15 years from now, yeah,
Maybe.
well, I'll sign up earlier, but but unless, but 15 years from now seems like right. There's other approaches that take an external only approach to brain computer interfaces. There's a hat coming out that I've seen that has 70,000 sensors that sits on the outside of your skull, right? It's a hat. You put it on, and now you have basically what the Neuralink people have right now. And that's coming in 2 years, and it should be about $500, the people who are making it say. So let's say it takes 4 years and it's $1,000. Everybody always underestimates how long this stuff it takes, and how it can get to market and how to manufacture it. But they're coming, and a hat idea can only read from the brain. It can't write to it yet. So it'll be a fun device to have, and that'll take us into a new world. To healthcare, there, I mean, you're going to see these brain computer interfaces embedded in people who have deep medical needs already, right? I just interviewed Mayron Gribitz, who has a brain computer interface that solves deep depression. So if somebody's severely depressed, like can't get out of the house, kind of depressed, they can get a little thing notched into their skull. The surgeon covers it back up, and it fixes that problem. And if you have that kind of problem, again, it makes a dramatic improvement in your life. So you're very willing to put up with the little surgery you have to do to have that implanted, and keeping it running. And every day you have to hook a little thing up to it for 5 to 10 minutes to charge it and to get the data out of it and put a new program into it and stuff like that. So I don't know. Where should we go with this? Because it does lead. I mean, if we talk about, 20 years from now, what does this thing look like? We're in a brain computer interface world that can write and read from our brain. And that's the singularity. That's the singularity.
To your point, I mean, people with, ME or chronic fatigue syndrome who maybe have 10 to 15 usable hours a week where they can function, and the rest of the time they really can't. They're bedridden, finding it hard to even be able to get out to go to the bathroom and things like that. The ability to be able to understand what's going on and rewrite that in order to be able to give them, a longer window, a greater, quality of life. This is huge. Okay, for absolutely that. So I think the opportunities are endless, let alone, being able to early detect, some of the diseases, so you don't find them out at stage 4, you find them out at stage 0 or 1. Okay. And then get into prevention. Absolutely.
Well, and then if you're somebody who's like paralyzed at Stanford University, I saw Fifi Lee give a talk, and she showed a video of a guy wearing a cap with a bunch of wires coming off of it, and he was controlling a robot. And he was, just by thinking, the robot was cooking him dinner, right? and that shows how deeply, when we do get to this singularity world where we're merging with AI in such a way, right? We're going to have AI in our head in a world where it's writing to our brain and reading from it. That's going to be quite something.
So in 20 years, what will it mean to be human, do you think?
That's a good, interesting question for many words will be burned on that question
Right.
by philosophers and scientists and
Ship of Theseus situation.
everybody will have an opinion on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think when, let's say I got a Neuralink right now and I was just waking up of this kind of note, the AI is in your head, and that gives you superpowers because now you can think to the AI far faster than using your mouth. I mean, I just yesterday I got ChatGPT voice so I could talk to my computer and have the computer do things, right? And there's a few other examples of that. My Chinese lights have microphones on them. It's going to be a weird future. In that world, you're going to be merged with AI. I think that's the best outcome, where we actually, the biological beings who are at the bleeding edge, merge with AI, and we talk to the AI in our head, right? And the AI is always there to assist us, make our life better, right? Stuff like that. And that's going to, if we had a true brain computer interface on, we could have that conversation at a far faster rate than me talking to my screen the way I have to right now, right?
Absolutely. So Philip and I mean, you're using, AI, just like you are all of the time. But I mean, I have, apart from when I'm podcasting, okay, or when it's not co-hosting, okay, I have, ChatGPT and others open, listening and talking to them sort of constantly throughout the day. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's just second nature. It's like working with a colleague in that respect. Okay, and so you're collaborating in real time. Hey, what about this, and do that? And they go quiet for a while, then ask a question. So it's just sitting there. It's just part of life at that point.
Yeah. And it's going to be more so, particularly as we get into glasses and have virtual beings that are going to be, assisting you. I mean, Elon Musk did the waifu this week, which is sort of
Yes.
a lame example of that. But within 18 months, we're going to have millions of different kinds of you could probably have me be your digital assistant if you wanted to, because you can clone my voice now. That's coming today from Hume. Right, I was playing with that yesterday, cloning my voice. You can clone my body. That's almost here or here, and you certainly can have me at least be a digital twin of yours, right? If you ask Grok, if you can have a Grok, ask Grok or ChatGPT, hey, can you have Robert Scoble interview Elon Musk, and it will lay out an interview for you. It knows how I write because it read all my blogs. That's how it was trained.
Sure.
So it knows me very deeply. It knows me better than I know myself. In fact, when I start asking it specific questions about what I did in the past, it reminds me of stuff I forgot about. Right?
Absolutely. Well, so here's a question then. So let's take this in a slightly different direction. Ethics. So safe and responsible AI. It's, I'm going to be slightly controversial here, but if we're going to be able to have, to use your example, avatars inside of glasses, so I can see somebody that that's virtually there. And to your point, I can scan somebody. I can look down the road. I'm going to be very controversial here. Look down the road and see children playing and decide to use one of those as my avatar and this sort of thing. So there's a level of AI ethics that I think has to come into this from a responsible perspective. And I think that, all service to the great God Mammon, and we all want to be able to make money, but we need to be able to do it in a way that has a set of guardrails. How do you think about that?
There's people in Silicon Valley making little tiny models in their basements with this,
Absolutely.
7 NVIDIA H200 cards in their basement.
Yep, exactly.
How are you going to regulate them too? And how are you going to regulate the Chinese? And I think we've opened up Pandora's box, and I don't know how we're going to get closed again.
So regulation probably isn't the answer, because regulation is never going to keep pace with what Bob and Susan in a basement can do right now with an N200. So at that point, then the question is, okay, if you're wanting to say, well, good news, we'll trust that everybody will do it correctly. I think that's not going to work either. So regulation isn't there, trust isn't there. So what's your thought around this?
It's a bunch of new problems coming for human beings, and I don't have the answers. Brain-computer interfaces are going to bring new problems of it takes away your free will. If you have wires on your brain, the person who put the wires on your brain controls you. Could make you pick up a gun and shoot somebody else. In theory, right? And you can't fight it. right? If there's a wire on your brain that's always on and it's forcing you to do something, you can't fight it. I could fight the little strips behind my ears when it made me lean left and right, and I could fight what it was doing to my brain.
Sure.
But it did force me to lean left or right, and I could fight my own brain. That leads to a new problem. Also, if you have wires on your brain, listening and writing, reality changes. So now we have a new misinformation problem, because if you have that device on, you don't know what's real anymore, right? A Coke can in front of you could change to a Pepsi can, and in your visual field, right? And there's nothing you can do about that. You have, and AI actually lays out these new problems. If you ask like Grok or ChatGPT about cognitive sovereignty in a brain-computer interface world, they lay out we need new regulations for this new world coming toward us, because we need humans to protect their humanness by having a piece of software that gets in between Elon Musk and your brain.
Right.
Absolutely.
and watches to make sure it's not changing reality this way, and not forcing you to pick up a gun and shoot somebody against your will, right?
Well, today was sponsored by Pepsi, so that Coke can is now Pepsi. You know, you walk into the store and all of the Coke cans appear to be empty. There's there's all the shelves that were selling Coke are all empty right now. The only available drink is sold by the Pepsi Corporation, because you can't see the things that are there.
Oh, you'll see the Coke cans. They won't play nasty like that. But the Pepsi can will have a Skrillex concert on it, and that'll be very attractive. Pepsi is cooler today than the Coke. You know,
Exactly.
We also are going to have a new inner dialogue problem with brain-computer interfaces, because it's listening to our inner dialogue. So think of a kid who has conservative parents who's deciding on his sexuality right now. The brain-computer interface could figure out he's gay before he even realizes himself, right? And could tell mom and cause all sorts of problems in a dystopian,
Absolutely.
Black Mirror world. This is possible, right? So do we step in and say that's not allowed, right? Don't report inner dialogue to anybody else and keep it all encrypted. We have to worry about a new quantum kind of attack on our encryption. So you better be using homomorphic encryption or some quantum resistant encryption to keep the government, the church, the corporation out of your life, right? Out of your head. So that's a whole new problem. On the ethics, it's a real problem, because the AI was created by stealing my content and not asking and not paying. So right there, it's an unethical system, if you look at it the right way. And how do we make an unethical system ethical? That's a real problem, because it was created in an unethical way, right? So how do we put that back in the box? I don't know. We're heading into a new future. We're all going to have conversations about.
We all have to have responsibility. It's not just the corporations. Humanity also cannot abdicate the responsibility to technology at all.
And there's a deeper problem too coming. These things are going to be highly addictive.
Oh, you say that. Absolutely.
Yeah. You think I'm studying, the world, and people are addicted to a little 4-inch piece of glass in their hand.
I know.
Yeah.
Wait until that's a wrap-around screen on the entire world, and it's doing stuff everywhere for you. You're never going to take these glasses off.
No, I mean, the metaverse was early, right? It was just way too early.
But every human is also going to have to make a decision. Do they play slot machines all night long, or do they go to a library?
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a fantastic library, but there's also going to be a fantastic slot machine. And a lot of people are going to choose just to gamble their lives away and not do anything else, right, with their lives.
Oh, there'll be a group of people who'll be gamifying the library.
Oh, everything will be gamified.
That's right. So you can serve it up in bite-sized, TikTok capable chunks that allow people to be able to consume this without their attention span, dying within the first 28 seconds.
That's a good point. We're going to change as human beings because we're not used to sitting down and reading a paper book anymore, right? We're used to this world of doom scrolling through X or TikTok or Instagram and looking at little tiny clips, which are highly tuned to create dopamine in your head and therefore to addict you. This is what the whole industry is doing.
And I do worry that we're losing cognitive abilities as humanity from using these tools.
You can gain cognitive abilities if you ask the right prompt, right?
Yeah, well, I think it's prompting, and I always say with Philip, it's discernment too.
Yeah.
So being able to ask the right question and then being able to discern whether what you're getting is what you were really asking for, and then being able to analyze that and collaborate backwards and forwards to get what you're looking for. Those are skills that are going to become so crucially important.
Yeah. I think, every human's going to have to make this decision. Are you going to be a builder or are you going to be a consumer?
Yeah.
There you go.
And if you're going to be a creator, it's going to lead to a happier life. And also the people you hang out with are more interesting. I can tell you that. And hanging out at the slot machines in Las Vegas, I've done both. Those people are fun, but they're generally not nearly as interesting as somebody in a machine shop building something, right? So I think we're all going to have to decide: are we going to be a builder or a consumer? And people like me will be mostly a consumer and sometimes a builder, right?
Yep.
So we're running close to time here. I've got a couple of rapid fire questions for you, and then we'll finish up. So, what's one prediction you've made that you're most proud of, and one that you got completely wrong?
My first book was written in 2005 while I worked at Microsoft, and it was about social media and how business would use social media. I took so much shit for saying that every business is going to have to use social media soon. And now every business does, right? And pretty much I have 6,600 AI companies in social media, right? And so I'm pretty proud of that. All 8 of my books have properly predicted decade-long changes. Even the latest one is about spatial computing, and that still hasn't happened. Even with me, I mean, I have a pair of digital glasses from Even Realities, but they only have a small green and black screen in them. They don't have a full-on full color display like the Apple Vision Pro. Meta is coming out in October with a pair of glasses that has a full color display, and that's going to be a radical change.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then what's next for you, Robert? Any big projects you're working on, ideas you're working on?
My goal in life is always to see a different entrepreneur every day. I'm putting up a video with a company that's making digital clothing this morning. I like talking to people who do things like that. I love visiting robot companies. I love robots. I think
right.
That gets me going in the morning. So I'm trying to understand where that industry is and what's coming for companies or business or people with robots. I'm just trying to. My business is trying to understand what's going on at the bleeding edge, where the puck is going, so I can give VCs advice and entrepreneurs strategic advice and help them go forward and help this future happen faster.
And where can listeners follow your latest work and your thoughts online?
I'm everywhere, but really on X. X is where the AI industry is. If you really are in the AI industry, you have to be on X. You can try to tell me it's over on Blue Sky or Threads. It's not. It's on X. That's where I can watch 6,600 companies and 28,000 people all in real time, all on one screen. And that's where we all are at the moment. And that's where I published most of my stuff. Yesterday, I published 64 things. So I'm watching that stream a lot, and then sharing the best of what I see in the community. So
great.
So Robert, can't thank you enough for being so generous with your time to share your thoughts and vision and wisdom with our audience. Thank you so much for your time. To our audience, thank you so much for being part of this wonderful episode, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you. That's a wrap on this week's episode of the Agentic Insider. Thank you for listening. For show notes and more, please visit agenticinsider.show. To learn more about Iridius, visit iridius.ai. We'll see you next time.